In an interview late today, President Obama said he knows the American people are not with him on his plan to strike Syria, and he intends to change that in a television address tomorrow evening. We asked the president about a surprising late development today that could head off an American attack. It was today that the Syrian dictatorship agreed to a Russian proposal to put Syria's chemical weapons under international control and eventually destroy them. We asked Mr. Obama about that and about the threats that were made by the Syrian dictator Bashar al-Assad in his interview with Charlie Rose. Can you accept the Russian-Syrian proposal?
Well, we don't know the details of it yet, but I think that it is a potentially positive development. I don't think that we would have gotten to the point where they even put something out there publicly had it not been, and if it doesn't continue to be a credible military threat from the United States and those who support serious responses to what happened inside of Syria. My central goal throughout this process has not been to embroil ourselves in a civil war in Syria. What I have said is that the ban on chemical weapon use is something that is of U.S. national interest.
What do you need to see in a diplomatic deal?
Well, the key is, to paraphrase Ronald Reagan, that we don't just trust, but we also verify. And so the importance is to make sure that the international community has confidence that these chemical weapons are under control, that they are not being used, that potentially they are removed from Syria, and that they are destroyed.
Assad essentially put you on notice today. In the interview with Charlie Rose, he said of the United States, if you strike somewhere, you have to expect the repercussions somewhere else in a different form, in a way that you don't expect. Mm-hmm. He brought up 9/11 as an example of the kind of thing America did not expect. Yeah. Do you take that as a threat?
Well, I mean, I think it was intended as a threat. I don't take it as a credible threat in the sense that Mr. Assad doesn't have the capacity to strike us in a significant way. Some of his allies, like Iran and Hezbollah, do have the capacity to engage in asymmetrical strikes against us. Our intelligence, I think, is very clear that they would not try to escalate a war with us over limited strikes to deal with this chemical weapon issue. But what is true is that our embassies in the region, U.S. personnel in the region, they're always potentially vulnerable to asymmetrical attacks. But the truth of the matter is those threats already exist from a whole range of groups.
Mr. President, the administration has described evidence to the American people and the world, but it hasn't shown evidence. And I wonder at this point, what are you willing to show? What are we going to see in terms of the evidence that you say we have?
Well, keep in mind what we've done is we've provided unclassified evidence, but members of Congress are getting a whole slew of classified briefings, and they're seeing very directly exactly what we have. I think the issue is not the evidence. No, most people around the world are not questioning the chemical weapons were used. I think the question now is how does the international community respond? And I think it is important for us to run to ground every diplomatic channel that we can, but I think it's very important for us to make sure that we understand this is important.
The people aren't with you.
Yeah, well, not yet. If you ask the average person, including my household, do we need another military engagement? I think the answer generally is going to be no. But when we start saying it's okay to, or at least that there's no response to the gassing of children, that's the kind of slippery slope that leads eventually to these chemical weapons being used more broadly around the world. That's not the kind of world that we want to leave to our children.